The carrier HMS Earth's Pride had been the last functional human warship for 237 days. It had begun its final mission as part of a fleet of 427 vessels. It had ended it as a lone ship operating on failing systems, driven by a crew that understood they were not coming home. Captain Sarah Mitchell stood on the bridge of the carrier and watched the enemy fleet approach through the viewport. The enemy was the Vex Collective, a militaristic civilization that had decided humanity needed to be eliminated. They had been systematically destroying human military assets for months. The fleet had been whittled down from 427 ships to a single carrier through attrition, through battles the humans could not win, through the slow grinding down of military capability against an opponent with superior numbers. The Earth's Pride was a carrier designed to deploy fighter aircraft. Those aircraft were gone now, expended in desperate defensive actions. The defensive weapons systems were damaged. The propulsion systems were failing. The ship was running on emergency power diverted from critical systems. It was, for all practical purposes, a dying vessel. And it was about to make a decision that would define what it meant to be human. The situation assessment Captain Mitchell convened her senior officers in the command center. The tactical assessment was grim. The Vex fleet numbered 847 capital ships. The Earth's Pride had weapons sufficient to engage perhaps 3 or 4 of those ships before its ammunition was exhausted. The Vex flagship, the Vex Dominion, was positioned at the center of the enemy formation, protected by multiple layers of escort ships. The only human military assets remaining in this region of space were the Earth's Pride and 3 support vessels. Those support vessels were equipped for logistical operations, not combat. They would be destroyed in seconds if the Vex chose to engage them. What are our options? Mitchell asked, though she already knew the answer. Commander David Torres, her tactical officer, reviewed the displays. We can attempt to flee deeper into human space, Torres said carefully. The Vex fleet would pursue, but at our current speed, we might be able to reach defended positions before they catch us. Estimated survival probability, 12%. Or, Mitchell prompted, knowing there was another option being considered. Or we stand and fight, Torres replied. We use our last weapons to engage the Vex fleet. We maintain this position and fight until our weapons are exhausted. Estimated survival probability, 0%. Mitchell looked around the bridge at her crew. These were people who had been fighting since the beginning of the Vex assault. These were soldiers who had seen their comrades die, their ships destroyed, their mission seemingly become impossible. There is a third option, said Lieutenant Commander Elena Vasquez, the ship's chief engineer. We have a failing reactor system. If we don't shut it down, it will begin to overheat within hours. But if we accelerate the reaction and direct all the energy into the propulsion system, we could generate a surge of speed sufficient to ram directly into the Vex Dominion before the reactor fails. The bridge fell silent. You're suggesting a suicide attack, Torres said quietly. Yes, Vasquez confirmed. We accelerate toward the enemy flagship. We use the last of our reactor power to achieve maximum velocity. We crash directly into the Vex Dominion. We kill the enemy command structure. We eliminate the flagship. Mitchell considered the options. Flee and probably die. Fight and definitely die. Or ram and maybe, just maybe, accomplish something significant before dying. Would the impact be sufficient to destroy the flagship? Mitchell asked. At current velocity with a reactor overload cascade? Vasquez calculated. Estimated impact force equivalent to a tactical nuclear weapon. The flagship would be catastrophically damaged at minimum. Destroyed entirely at maximum probability. And our crew? Would not survive the impact, Vasquez said simply. The acceleration would destroy the ship's structural integrity long before we reach the flagship. We would be dead before we made contact. Mitchell looked at her crew. This would be a volunteer operation, she said. I will not order anyone to participate in a suicide mission. Those who wish to attempt to evacuate to the support vessels may do so. She paused. But I am staying on this bridge. And the ship's course is set toward the enemy flagship. The final decision in the next hour, approximately 40% of the Earth's Pride's remaining crew chose to evacuate to the support vessels. But 60% remained. The crew that chose to remain did so with full understanding that they would not survive the mission. They did so because they understood something that the Vex Collective had fundamentally miscalculated: humans do not give up. Humans do not accept inevitable defeat. Humans find ways to make their final stand meaningful. Captain Mitchell addressed the remaining crew over the shipwide intercom. "This is Captain Mitchell. In the next hours, we will engage in the final mission of the Earth's Pride. We will not be returning to human space. We will not be reaching a defended position. We will be making a deliberate collision with the Vex Dominion." She paused, letting the words settle. "This is a volunteer operation. You have already chosen to remain. You have already chosen to participate. I want you to understand that choice means your death. But it also means something else. It means that humanity's last act in this conflict will be an act of defiance. It will be an act that defines what it means to be human." She continued, her voice steady and clear. "The Vex believe that military superiority determines survival. They believe that the species with the most ships, the most weapons, the most power will inevitably triumph. We are about to teach them a different lesson. We are about to teach them that a species that refuses to accept defeat, that transforms its final moments into a meaningful action, that chooses defiance over surrender, that species cannot be truly defeated." Mitchell looked around the bridge at the faces of her crew. "In the history that will be written, our names may not be remembered. But our action will be. The fact that humanity's last carrier did not accept inevitable defeat will be recorded forever. And that is enough." The acceleration Vasquez initiated the reactor overload sequence. The Earth's Pride had been designed to carry fighter aircraft. It had a sleek profile, a relatively small crew, and powerful propulsion systems designed for carrier operations. What it did not have was the structural integrity to survive the forces that would be generated by directing an overloading reactor entirely into forward propulsion. The ship began to accelerate. The acceleration was gradual at first, then increasingly intense. The frame of the ship groaned under forces it was not designed to withstand. The deck plates began to bend. The walls began to crack. But the ship kept accelerating. The Vex detected the acceleration immediately and understood what was happening. "The human carrier is attempting a ramming maneuver," the Vex tactical officer reported to the fleet commander. The Vex commander issued orders to intercept. Escort ships moved to block the carrier's approach. Defensive weapons powered up. The Vex formed a defensive screen around the Vex Dominion. But the Earth's Pride was accelerating beyond the Vex calculations for human ship capability. The acceleration was impossible. The speed was unachievable. And it was coming directly toward them. The final moments Captain Mitchell felt her body being pressed back against her command chair as the acceleration increased beyond survivable limits. Around her, crew members were collapsing, unable to withstand the gravitational forces being generated by the reactor overload and the desperate acceleration toward enemy lines. But Mitchell remained conscious. Somehow, through the crushing force, she remained aware. She activated the communication channel to the evacuation fleet. "To all human personnel on the support vessels, you are to continue toward defended human space. Do not attempt to assist. The Earth's Pride will engage the enemy. Complete your mission. Report what occurs here to human command." The support vessels, watching from a distance, maintained their course away from the Vex fleet. The Earth's Pride continued toward the Vex Dominion. The Vex fleet attempted to stop it. Defensive fire erupted from hundreds of ships. Weapons that had been designed to destroy enemy vessels concentrated their fire on the accelerating human carrier. The carrier's shields failed. The armor plating was penetrated. The structural integrity of the ship was compromised. But the ship continued accelerating. In the final seconds, Captain Mitchell understood what was about to happen. The Earth's Pride would reach the Vex Dominion. The reactor would discharge. The collision would occur. And humanity's last stand would be recorded in galactic history forever. The Earth's Pride impacted the Vex Dominion at 35% the speed of light. The collision was not a weapon strike. It was not a conventional attack. It was the transformation of a ship into a kinetic weapon of unprecedented force. The reactor overload cascade discharged at the moment of impact, adding thermonuclear destruction to the kinetic energy of the collision. The result was catastrophic. The Vex Dominion, the flagship of the Vex Collective fleet, was torn apart by the impact. The collision tore through its hull, destroyed its core systems, killed the fleet commander and most of the command structure. The flagship ceased to exist. And the Earth's pride, after months of desperate fighting, after being hunted across space, after being reduced to a single carrier operating on failing systems, made humanity's final statement, defiance. The carrier, and its crew, and Captain Sarah Mitchell ceased to exist in the same moment. But the impact reverberated across the galaxy. The aftermath, the Vex fleet, suddenly without its flagship and without clear command authority, went into chaos. The various fleet commanders, each with their own priorities and tactical assessments, could not coordinate effectively. The unified assault that had been grinding humanity down suddenly fragmented into competing operations. The support vessels that had evacuated from the Earth's pride used the chaos to escape deeper into human space. When they reached defended human positions, the survivors of the carrier crew told the story of the Earth's pride's final action. They told how the ship had been hunted across space, damaged beyond repair, stripped of its offensive capability. They told how Captain Mitchell had made a choice to accelerate toward the enemy flagship with full knowledge that the mission would kill everyone on the bridge. They told how the crew had volunteered for the suicide mission, understanding the cost. They told how the carrier had accelerated beyond what should have been possible, driven by a reactor on the verge of catastrophic failure. They told how the Earth's pride had impacted the Vex Dominion and, in that single moment of collision, had eliminated the flagship of the Vex Collective. The galactic reaction, the news of the Earth's pride's final action spread across the galaxy with shock and awe. Humanity had been losing the war against the Vex. The human military had been systematically destroyed. The human homeworld had been conquered. Human civilization was facing extinction. But in that moment of final defeat, humanity had accomplished something that no one had anticipated. Humanity had destroyed the Vex flagship. In a single act of defiance, in a single moment of suicide mission, humanity had struck a blow against the Vex that the Vex would remember forever. The Vex fleet, deprived of its command structure, found itself unable to continue the systematic destruction of human civilization. The operations that had been coordinated from the flagship could no longer be conducted effectively. And in that moment of opportunity, human forces that had been scattered and retreating suddenly found themselves capable of regrouping. The war that had seemed lost suddenly became salvageable. The philosophical transformation, the Earth's pride's final action, triggered something unexpected across human civilization, a transformation of the meaning of courage. Prior to the crash, courage had meant fighting against odds. Courage had meant attempting to defeat an enemy despite numerical disadvantage. Courage had meant struggling for victory even when victory seemed impossible. After the crash, courage meant something more profound. Courage meant transforming final moments into meaningful action. Courage meant refusing to accept that defeat was inevitable. Courage meant making the choice to die in a way that would matter. Captain Sarah Mitchell became the symbol of human defiance. Her choice to accelerate toward the Vex flagship, knowing it would kill her and her crew, became the defining moment of human military culture. Other species, observing what humans had accomplished through the Earth's pride's final action, began to recognize something about human consciousness that they had underestimated. Humans did not value survival above all other things. Humans valued meaning. Humans valued the significance of their final actions. Humans were willing to trade survival for the opportunity to make a statement about who they were. The consequences of choice, the destruction of the Vex Dominion, did not immediately end the Vex assault on human civilization. But it transformed the war from a campaign of systematic annihilation into a conflict that could be contested. It gave humanity the space to regroup, to reinforce, to mount an actual defense. Over the following months, human forces that had been scattered across space began to coordinate. Refugees began to stabilize. Military production resumed. And the Vex, deprived of their flagship and their command structure, found themselves unable to maintain the overwhelming military advantage they had previously possessed. The war eventually ended in a negotiated settlement. Humanity was not destroyed. Humanity was not conquered completely. Humanity survived because, in the moment of final possible defeat, humans had made a choice to die in a way that would matter. The memorial, 1,000 years after the Earth's pride crashed into the Vex Dominion, a memorial was constructed in human space. The memorial was not designed to celebrate military victory. The Earth's pride had not won the war single-handedly. The memorial was designed to honor something deeper, the choice to transform final moments into meaningful action. The memorial took the form of a massive kinetic sculpture, a representation of the Earth's pride in the moment of collision with the Vex Dominion. The sculpture captured the instant before impact, frozen in time, forever representing the moment of choice and consequence. Trillions of beings visited the memorial across the centuries. Some came to understand human culture. Some came to contemplate the nature of courage. Some came simply to witness what it looked like when a civilization chose defiance over surrender. The cultural legacy, the story of the Earth's pride, shaped human military culture for the 1,000 years that followed. Military personnel were trained not just to fight to victory, but to understand that final stands could be meaningful. Soldiers learned that sacrifice, when undertaken with full consciousness of its meaning, was itself a form of victory. The principle of the meaningful final action became central to human philosophy and ethics. It spread to other species, influencing how other civilizations understood courage, defiance, and the significance of choices made in the face of inevitable defeat. The Earth's pride had not survived. Captain Sarah Mitchell had not survived. Most of the crew had not survived. But their decision to crash the carrier into the Vex Flagship had survived, echoing across 1,000 years of human history, teaching every generation what it meant to be human, to choose defiance, to choose meaning, to choose to make your final action matter. The personal reflection, a recording was discovered in the wreckage of the Earth's pride, a personal message left by Captain Sarah Mitchell before the final acceleration sequence. The recording, transmitted to the support vessels and preserved in human archives, contained Mitchell's final thoughts: "I am Captain Sarah Mitchell of the Earth's pride. In moments, this ship will accelerate toward the enemy flagship. My crew and I will not survive this action. But we will accomplish something that matters." She paused. The Vex believe that military power determines outcomes. They believe that the species with the most ships will triumph. We are about to teach them that they are wrong. We are about to teach them that a species that refuses to accept defeat, that chooses meaning over survival, that transforms its final moments into a statement about who they are, that species cannot be truly defeated. Mitchell's voice was steady, measured, profound. Future generations will judge whether our choice was right. But I want them to understand why we made it. We made it because we are human. Because we do not accept inevitable defeat. Because we transform final moments into meaning. Because we would rather die in a way that matters than survive in a way that does not. She looked directly at the camera, and in that final moment before acceleration, she smiled. "This is Captain Sarah Mitchell. The Earth's pride is engaging the enemy. Report this action to Human Command. Continue the war. Humanity will survive." The recording ended as the acceleration began.